Hey, it's Simon, and it's Friday. It's our fun Friday, as we've been saying lately. Now, as you can tell, I have a nice brick wall behind me now. I could stay there, or I could shift. I could take a step and give you a whole different perspective. You get some nature here. Some more nature, different colours starting to pop up. And I think it's all too easy, especially at the moment, to get fixed into one location, fixed into one environment, and have that be where we are staying with. So if you get the chance to get out in nature, keeping in line with your regulations, your lockdown environment, I recommend you do so. I know when I've had the chance to do that, it's really made a difference to me. Now, there's a couple of different things to notice about that. There's the physical environment, and that may or may not be optimal in that moment. A few minutes ago it was raining. You can still see we've got some water here on these leaves. But there was some sunshine this morning. It's not raining right now, and I can come outside and I can talk to you. Now, equally, there's the inner environment, our mental environment, what we're focusing on, our thoughts, the people we're communicating, the videos we're watching, the audios we're listening to, the books we're reading, and really the focus we have for our life, our business, our legacy, our relationships. So where is it that you're living, and is it serving you? And at the moment, so many environments, I think, are going through transition. Some of them are very toxic, some are very clearly a very challenging environment to be in, where maybe they haven't got the food supplies, the water supplies they'd like to have, or need to have really to survive, let alone to focus on abundance and thrival. Other times you could be in a big city, and that city itself is now in turmoil. A lot of people are angry or stressed out and wondering about what's next, maybe not communicating in a way that's easy for you to be with. And the truth of it is, for virtually everybody, we have got some choice. There is some freedom to choose what we focus on. And we may not have the freedom to move and travel the way we used to, may not have the financial ability today to take those actions. But my hope is that we could have the difference to change how we're thinking and over time change our environment. Now, I'm clearly here in a gardened area. This was not like this when I first came to this property over 20 years ago. And now today it is. And that's because people have taken actions, maybe not every single day, but they've been going, I could move that, I could change this. Planting trees, building walls, and taking the steps to create something that works. And what works for you may not work for me. And the truth is, I don't need it to. See, if you're not actually interacting with me directly, I may not need to know what works for you. But often we have what they call externalities. There are things that impact each other even if we don't realize it. And I think there's an really interesting space when we can start to focusing on what my friends call the win-win-win game. Focusing how to make it a win for somebody else, a win for that enterprise, and a win for you as well. All the participants having a win, having it work for all the people. But that requires something. And it actually requires having the thinking to think it through from the end, to take on the empathy of imagining somebody else's position, and also actually asking the questions in the right way and listening to the answers and actually really being an inquiry versus in a right-wrong space. So that's what I'm thinking about today as I'm out here, very grateful that I can come outside. And while it isn't the sunny days we might think of as a great summer, I actually quite like days like today when it's not too cold, not too wet, not too warm, not too snowy, and we can enjoy nature. And it's very different again if I give you the still wick wall. And to remind you, at the start of the video we talked about perspective. So if I just sort of said, hey, this is my environment, you might think this is what I've got to work with. But if you turn it around, often there's more happening in your blind spots. And I think that's the beauty of masterminding. When you work with other people, you start to see different things. You start to have a different perspective on what's going on. And it's easy for the mind to be tricked. You might see these lines and go, they're not parallel, they're bigger here than they are down that end. Well, how does that work? And the truth of it is that we live in a 3D world. Started this 99-day challenge, I was talking a lot about 3D thinking, about going from a 2D to a 3D. And I think it's so easy for us to fall into limiting ourselves and thinking we know what's going on, and actually being in a representation of what's going on that's limited and very flat. And I don't just mean that in a practical sense, I mean that there's so many nuances to people. There's somebody I met probably a couple of years ago now that I spoke with in the last 24 hours. And I learned more today talking to him than I had up till now about where he'd been, his interests, both in the areas of health and fitness and competitions in that area, what he does around music with DJs, and what I actually used to work with when I ran a club night with my partners, John and Carl, back in Durham, back in my uni days, maybe 20 years ago now. And it's interesting how these dots connect up, that you might never get to know, and yet seemingly you know people, you know their face, know their name, but you may not know where they've been, where they're going, and how all these intricacies of being a human fit together. So that's my thought for today. Hope you're having a fun Friday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.